Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over the best singles, especially chase cards that I would look at right now, and these are all under around $200 to $300. So these aren't going to necessarily break the bank, but they are big chase cards that I think might do well in the future, especially with some of these more out of print sets. And we'll go over a lot of them. I'll kind of explain whether or not you should buy into them. But the main theme of these cards is that they're all dipping right now. And look, a lot of modern singles across the board are dipping. Not all of them are, but most of them are. And so I kind of want to explain when you should buy the dip and when you shouldn't buy the dip, right? So what dip kind of makes sense to really start buying into, and what ones you should maybe hold on a little longer. And just give my general thoughts and opinions. Again, as always, if you disagree with anything I'm saying here, leave it down in the comments. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, pure market speculation, but these are just my personal picks, starting with the Brilliant Stars Charizard. Personally, I think this Charizard is super underrated. Maybe people just don't like this scene as much. I think it's very cool with the fighting with the Venusaur. I actually prefer it more over the Charizard that's getting like strangled by the Venusaur. I don't know if you guys have seen that. I think it's a promo. But yeah, I think this one is great. It has seen somewhat of a dip, recently in the last, let's say, 3 months, when it reached a new high at around 200, it came down a bit. It hasn't dipped that much. And so you don't necessarily have to pick this one up, but I actually do still think that it's a pretty underrated card. This one I'm a little hesitant on. However, the set that it's from, Brilliant Stars, is currently out of print. It's gonna be out of print for the long-term future. They're not gonna reprint this set. It's Sword and Shield, right? I myself have a few Brilliant Stars products that I'm keeping sealed because I really believe in the set, and I think this Charizard might actually end up becoming a really big chase card of the Sword and Shield era. I think it's actually the best Charizard of the Sword and Shield era. That's just my opinion, but we'll see how it does in the future. I think this is not a horrible pickup. Next up, we have the Stormy V from Astral Radiance. This one has seen a pretty decent 15% decline. And guys, this is healthy. People telling you that we're in a bear market because a single dropped 15% over 3 months is insane to me. Like, I saw a video from Phil's Collectibles, and like, no hate towards him. I love his videos. But saying that we're in a bear market because of that, that the summer slowdown is really affecting everybody, dude, it's still impossible to get product anywhere. Every time I go to a vending machine, I went today, I caught the restock. You know what the restock was? I got a single Surging Sparks pack and a single Journey Together pack. I ripped them and got nothing. I mean, and I'm not complaining. Like, I'm glad I was able to find something. And I obviously didn't take everything. But look, you just can't get product at MSRP unless you are actively hunting for it. And overall, this has seen a pretty decent drop, down to around $85. I think there's still a good amount of copies, available, and you might be able to find some gradable copies out in the wild. Yeah, I think this is a pretty iconic card. I think this is going to actually end up becoming the chase for Astral Radiance. I think it's going to surpass that Machamp. In my head, I just see that happening. But I think these are easier to pull. So since the trainer galleries tend to be easier to pull, maybe there's just more of it. But yeah, I think this is an amazing card. Very, very cool art style. You got Starmie lounging around with Misty. Like, if you guys watched the anime back in the day, Starmie was huge and part of Misty's team. Same with the Psyduck, which when Destined Rivals gets cheaper, I'm definitely going to buy some Misty Psyducks. I think that's a cool card as well. But I think this one is decent. Astral Radiance, again, out of print. Not a bad pickup at all. Next, we have Archus V Star from Crown Zenith. This has seen, again, their dip, and I really do think this is a good time to buy in. In my head, Crown Zenith singles are gonna keep pumping. Yes, they are somewhat easy to pull. Like, Crown Zenith has much better pull rates compared to a lot of other sets, but the gold cards are still pretty hard to pull. The gold cards tend to be a little bit harder to pull. I pulled a lot of Crown Zenith, and I never pulled the Arceus, but I did actually pull the Giratina. And yeah, this card is super undervalued. You can actually see there's a lot of sales volume now happening that it's hit this kind of low. I definitely think this is a buy. And look, if you're gonna buy the Arceus and Giratina, you might as well just buy the other two. You know what I'm saying? You might as well buy the Dialga and Palkia. They look so good together. I think this like quad, of cards is going to be super iconic down the line. I currently have all of them in Japanese, but I think I want to convert that into English to help it retain value. Obviously get the PSA 10 versions, but the raw copies are just as bad. Oh, and I did remember to put the near mint holofoil price this time. Yeah, this has seen a good, decent dip. And I think Galarian, Gallery, Crown Zenith, I think a lot of Crown Zenith singles in general are definitely worth buying into. You know, the last singles video I made, I talked about the Mewtwo, the Glaceon, and the Leafeon. I think those are also still great buys, but obviously this gold, group it's going to go crazy. In my eyes, it's going to go crazy. Now, let's move on to some newer stuff with 151 singles. Now, I think the Zapdos EX is still really underrated. And it's seen a pretty heavy retrace that had a top at around 70. It looks like it's come down to 50, which I think is a pretty fair price for this. But dude, if I'm being completely honest, this is much better than the Moltres SIR and Destined Rivals. This is much better than the stained glass birds, in my opinion. I like them more than the stained glass. I just think this artwork of all three of them, like flying across the sky, it's got a beautiful sky blue like background. It just looks so sweet. And Zapdos is my personal favorite of the three, so I like it being a little more prominent. I think Articuno is generally more popular, but this Zapdos card is insane. The only reason it's dipping is because 151 got massive reprints. People are ripping it like nobody's business, and so a lot of the 151 singles right now are being held down. What does that mean, right? When people rip more products, more of the singles go into the market, and so more of them get sold, and then that kind of makes a race to the bottom, right? When a lot of people have these singles, they all want to sell to kind of drive the price down. They don't want to drive the price down, but it just naturally happens when a lot of sales volume occurs, and people keep undercutting each other because they're trying to, sell their stuff. And Zapdos, SARs are a pretty good example of this. And we're going to see a lot of other 151, SIRs on here, but Zapdos, there's a really high population of them. But I still think it's an amazing card. As we've seen time and time again, population doesn't really matter for these modern cards, because once people buy into the collection and buy the card, they usually just keep them. Most people don't end up selling all the cards they buy. This might be a grail for somebody, right? 5 years down the line, they might say, wow, this Zapdos from 151, one of the most iconic sets ever, has all three birds on it, looks amazing. I'm going to buy that for $500 or something. I could definitely see that happening. I think the Zapdos is super iconic. And same with, we're just going to go through all the starters here. So Venusaur, again, has seen a massive dip. Easy buy, in my opinion. Venusaur is probably my favorite artwork out of the three. Maybe a little controversial. I think the colors are so awesome. But yeah, I'm glad it's seen a huge drop. And you can already see, again, guys, there's a slight uptick here, which indicates a support line forming. If you don't know what that means, it means that once a card reaches a certain price, people were waiting for that price to happen, and so now they're starting to buy into it because they really wanted the card, but they didn't want to buy it when it was super expensive. Now that it feels like a discount, they're buying into it, creates a support line. Venusaur, same kind of story. We're seeing the same kind of support line. Same with the Charizard. Now, if you're gonna buy into only one of these, I think the Charizard is kind of the no-brainer. But I think all three, not bad. I think I'm going to end up collecting at least all three at some point and just keeping them in my PC. They're iconic cards. Like, they look super cool. And let's move on to some more iconic cards from the Scarlet Violet era from Paldean Fates. I think this Gardevoir is super underrated. $80 is, I think, a pretty fair price. It's come down to 70. It looks like it hit a top around 90. Look at this Wooper in the background. It looks so funny. You had like sleeping Pachirisu, and you have it doing like this kind of cool dance. And if you don't know, Shiny Gardevoir is blue. So I like that they kind of match the color palette of the entire piece with Gardevoir's shiny color. I think it makes a really good artwork. I think this is probably the best Gardevoir card we've gotten so far. Now, we could end up getting some better ones in the new set, right, with Mega Evolution, because it is a Lucario and Gardevoir themed one. I still think this is a good pickup. I'm probably going to get one for my PC at least. Same with another Paldean Fates card, the Charizard. I personally think this is easily the best Charizard card we've gotten in Scarlet and Violet. I like it more than the 151 personally, because I just think it looks so sick. The crystallized like version, it looks really beautiful in person. I've seen it in person. It also like has a kind of shining factor, right? Because it is a shiny Charizard. It matches well with that like crystal look that they're going for with the Terra, obviously. So it's a Terra Dark, Charizard. Gives you vibes to like to Gold Star Charizard almost, in my head. And yeah, I think it looks really really good. They kept his neck a little longer for all those long neck enjoyers. And yeah, this is seen. It's a high of around 214, came down to 160, which I think super fair price in my eyes. And of course, if we're gonna talk about Paldean Fates, we got to talk about the grails of grails. You are already seeing this kind of build support line and drive back up, guys. This Bubble Mew is the most iconic card of the SV era, in my opinion. Maybe only behind the Magikarp, which is weird to say. Like Mew and Magikarp being driving forces for a generation is interesting, but also at the same time, it doesn't necessarily surprise me because they are Gen 1 Pokemon. They have really iconic artworks. And I think we're kind of in an age where the art matters a ton. Maybe that signifies that a lot of people from Pocket have moved into the new space. And I think in Pocket, they've really mastered the cool artworks that are on there. I think there's some Pocket arts that are honestly better than the TCG, real life TCG arts. And so I love collecting, the digital cards in Pocket, but I think collecting the real stuff is way cooler. And so we're seeing all that demand. As you can see, this is when Pocket came out. All that demand came into the Bubble Mew, and it's holding up pretty well. I got upcharged on my Japanese Bubble Mew that I sent in, so I know it got a 10 for sure. Unfortunately, did not get an upcharge on my Giratina, so I know that didn't hit a 10, which is really sad. When I get the PSA return, we'll make a video about that. But hey, you miss some, you hit some. It is what it is. I'm not super miffed about it. We'll try again with another Tina. But I think, guys, Bubble Mew is a great pickup in my head. Still under $500. I think this is going to be a $500 card at some point. It hit like peaks of 420, 420. But yeah, I think 300 is not the worst price. If you can find around like 290, I'm probably gonna end up trading in my Japanese Bubble Mew for a raw copy and see if I can get the grade, the 10. But yeah, I think having a copy of Bubble Mew in English is not a bad idea. And if you're looking for good grading play, the Japanese Bubble Mew grades extremely easily, super high gem rate, and still has a premium on the PSA 10 version. So if you're looking for grading plays, Japanese is just, it's a killer, man. It always does well. Anyway, let's move on to some stuff that I'm a little skeptical about now. Greninja EX. So, this has been falling for a while now. And I know there was a lot of controversy on, like, did it get market manipulated? Was it a really cheap card? And then people just, bought it out, and then it soared to, like, $400, which, I'm gonna be honest, I don't think it's worth $400 yet. I could see it being a very big chase card in the future, but right now Twilight is just a little too new. I could even see us getting more Twilight reprints, and I could see this price dropping further, but at the same time, it's at the same price it was in July, which is before the boom. Now, people will say 151 caused the boom. I somewhat agree, but I also somewhat disagree, because you could still find 151. You could see 151 on shelves. Like, when I was not really, quote-unquote, investing in the hobby, I was not buying 151 ETBs and bundles because I didn't enjoy ripping it that much. Just because I'm not like, I didn't grow up with Gen 1. Okay, Gen 3 and Gen 4 are my bread and butter in terms of one of my favorites. But, like, this is not a bad price to buy in objectively. It is not a bad price. If you really like this card, I think now is a good time to get in and maybe find some gradable copies. Although I will say, it's been really hard to find gradable Greninjas. I think it's because if you pull the Greninja, you just automatically send it. So anyone I see at a card show, it's going to have some kind of defect. It's going to be like off-centered or whitening and all this, that. I feel like card shows recently, all the raw copies have just been trash. It's like impossible to find gradable copies nowadays. Like, you have to really look or just get lucky. And yeah, a lot of the cards I recently sourced from were from card shows, and it looks like the Tina didn't get a 10. So maybe sourcing your cards from card shows is not the best idea. I'm still learning, right? I'm still learning how to source cards, how to get these. Um, so we'll see. Um, yeah, I think this Greninja will do well in the future. I don't think it's a bad buy. But if you're going for grading plays, just be a little careful. At this one, it's hard for me. I have not seen many great gradable copies. So make sure you're being very, very careful with that. But if you're just looking for raw, I don't think it's a bad pickup. It's at a good price, but again, we could see more Twilight reprints. Same with the Ldios from Surging Sparks. Now, to be completely clear, I think a lot of the singles from Surging Sparks are going to do amazingly in the long term. This Ldios being one of them. It's seen a good decrease. You know, it came out really, really hot. Again, Surging Sparks kind of came out right next to Pocket, so a lot of the singles were really highly inflated. I still think this could go down even more. At 159, it's not a bad buy. But again, guys, Pokemon, I think they think in their heads that Surging Sparks is what set everything off, plus Pocket. They probably realize that a combination of the two is what really matters, and 151. So you can see 151 is getting the insane reprint treatment. We are still getting Blooming Waters. We are still getting bundles. We're still getting this and that. Prismatic, they see that, right? They just announced a new collection box. They're probably going to keep reprinting the ETBs for a while. That's why I have no Prismatic singles on here. I cannot recommend buying Prismatic singles right now, unless you're going for like a grading play or something. But even then, I bought some Prismatic singles and they went down. And so now I'm not really making money on some of them, even if I grade them and get a 10, which is unfortunate. But, you know, you make mistakes and you learn. So I wouldn't buy Prismatic right now. Ldios, it's seen a lot of downward growth. It's at the lowest it's ever been in history. Maybe it's not a bad buy-in. I'm seeing somewhat of a support line. I mean, the sales volume is kind of increasing a bit, but not really. And personally, I think we're going to get like more Surging Sparks reprints. So guys, I know the bundles and ETBs were confirmed, so I would hold on for now. Don't buy Surging Sparks. But I think this is going to be a good chase in the future. Same for the Milotic. I think this is going to end up being a really, really big chase card. Milotic is a very popular Pokemon. And it's seen like pretty heavy downward growth, which makes sense. I don't think it even should be $100 right now. I see this more in like the $60 to $50 range as a bottom, and then I could see it rising from there. I think Surging Sparks is still due for way more reprints, but we'll see. Who knows? So yeah, I would be holding off on Surging Sparks cards and singles right now. And let's get into Journey Together. I think this card is super underrated, but not right now. I still wouldn't buy it right now. I really want this in my collection. I have a lot of nostalgia for Sun and Moon, so I like Lily as a character. I also like Gladion as a character, and Lusamine. You know, love the whole, and Guzma actually. Honestly, all the Sun and Moon characters are really fun. Unfortunately, they only give Lily cards. I don't know why they don't give Gladion and Lusamine and Guzma some love, but yeah, Lily gets everything. But I think this card is really fun. Like, it's very cute. Great texturing. I've seen it in person. It's fallen an insane amount, which is obvious. Like, don't buy cards when they just come out. It just doesn't make sense. But I think it's going to keep dropping because Journey Together, again, is going to keep getting reprints. It's very, very new. There's only, less than 6 months of data to go off of. And the fact that it's dropped so much tells me that it's probably going to drop even more, even though it's still so new. But I think this card is, in the long term, in my eyes, I think it'll do amazingly. I wouldn't buy it right now, but I think people are sleeping on Journey Together as a set. Lily's Clefairy, I think, is actually a pretty good chase card, all things considered. But I think what will end up being an even better chase card in the future is actually going to be the Salamance. As a certified Gen 3 lover, this is an amazing Salamance card. I love that he's breathing fire. It has an amazing, sunset backdrop. Really, really beautiful card. Again, this has seen a massive decrease, and we're gonna probably keep seeing it go down. If it's at 70 right now, I could actually see it coming down to like 50, maybe even 40, and I would definitely be picking it up then. Yeah, I think Salamance EX, great SIR in my opinion. I think Journey Together, all in all, is kind of slept on. I'm hoping more of it goes to MSRP so I can actually increase my Journey Together position. I think it's better than Paradox Rift I think it's better than Temporal. I think it's better than like SV Base, Obsidian. It's better than a lot of the early sets we got in Scarlet and Violet, and I think those sets are still going to do amazingly. So that's why I do have a lot of confidence in string together. I still think it's a mid-tier set. I would say it's above Stellar Crown, but kind of on the same level as Stellar Crown in terms of public perception. But I have a feeling that that perception could change, but I might be wrong. I really do believe in Journey Together. And obviously, I'm not going over any Destined Rival singles right now, just because don't buy Destined Rival singles, guys. They're going to keep going down in price. Wait for some reprints, wait for more people to open up the product. And people are opening up the product. Just hold on for a second. I think they'll end up doing really well in the future. But yeah, a lot of these, like a really ultra modern stuff that has seen some dips, I don't think it's a great time to buy. I think those are going to continue to dip. I wouldn't be surprised if they do. But some of the older stuff, I think if you see them dip, it might not be a bad time to get in now while you still can. Also, I realized I forgot to talk about Pikachu. This is also seeing a massive drop in price. But also the sales volume is like not there. Do people actually want this card? Am I crazy? I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of B-hole Pikachu, but I understand people that do enjoy it. It is a Pikachu card. It's very like crystally, I guess. Not really my favorite in my opinion, but it is still the big chase card in Surging Sparks. So who knows? Could end up, you know, maintaining its value. But yeah, personally, if I'm gonna buy into Surging Sparks singles, again, I like to buy into singles I actually enjoy. I'm not gonna buy this Pikachu. I don't really care how much it dips. I just don't like the art, so it's not for me. But lesson of this video is really to, one, buy singles you like, but two, buy the dip. I think if you really believe in some of these cards, especially some of the older ones, it seems like they're not going to get much reprints. Remember, a lot of the Scarlet and Violet sets are in the G block that's going to rotate out, I think, next year. So things like Paldean Fates, 151, Paldea Evolved, you know, all those kind of cards, they will end up being phased out. And so maybe now is the time to buy in. Also, I realized I forgot to go over like the first 5 sets of Scarlet and Violet. I just didn't go over any singles in that. But again, that's just because most of them have illustration rares as the chases. As you can see, the Magikarp. The only one that's on the best selling that is an SIR in like this kind of top row is the Charizard from Obsidian Flames. Maybe right now is the time to buy into this Charizard. From what I understand, the pull rates are super easy though. But I don't know. It is a Charizard card. I really hate how it looks. I think the Paldean Fates one is better in my opinion. But you can't lie with the facts that it is one of the best selling ones. Same with the Roaring Moon. Seems pretty cheap for an SIR, only $37. Not a bad price at all. Raging Bolt has come down a bit. Raging Bolt's not my favorite card in Temporal. I actually think the Ghastly's better, but Raging Bolt, not bad SIR either. Same with the Altaria, actually. I would definitely be buying an Altaria. 35 is pretty cheap. Miraidon and Koraidon are going to be the face of Scarlet and Violet. Not a bad buy-in either. Garchomp's okay. Not the best artwork here. I think Destined Rivals is a better Garchomp. Fuecoco, that's the illustration rare, but again, starter. Tinkaton, I think, is going to do amazing in the future. I recently just sold a copy of mine. Kind of wish I kept it, but it is what it is. Skeleturge, again, popular starter. Probably the most popular starter from Scarlet and Violet. You know, so could be a good one to buy into. But yeah, a lot of these kind of like older, you know, SV era singles and SIRs, unfortunately don't have a ton of popularity behind them, so I didn't end up talking about them too much. Just kind of the big chase cards from SV. And yeah, let me know if I missed any cards that you guys think should have been on this list. Are you going to buy into any specific cards? Are there any products you're looking into that I have kind of overlooked recently? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.